I'm really proud and excited to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Jayshree Seth, who is a corporate scientist at 3M and currently holds 79 patents. That's right, 79 patents. She joined 3M in 1993 after an MS and a PhD in chemical engineering from Clarkson University in New York. She is also 3M's first ever chief science advocate and was appointed to this role in 2018. She is a member of Carleton Society, which is the 3M Science and Innovation Hall of Fame. We have a tour of our Innovation Center coming up, and trust me, there's a huge part on that Hall of Fame. It is an amazing thing, and Jayshree, super impressive, so thank you. In addition to her many internal and external advisory roles, Jayshree also serves on the board of the Science Museum of Minnesota, which we've heard about here today and is participating here today. We're excited to have you with us, Dr. Seth. Let's hear it for Dr. Jayshree Seth.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much, Michael. I have to say that the event today reminds me of that event at the White House that was just spoken about. Now, I don't know about you all, but for me, getting to the White House, that was like so special. And it was more special because I actually didn't know how does one get there. I Ubered with Dr. Shirley Malcolm, and I just love the fact that in order to get to the White House, you have to Uber. And what was so magical about that day really was sitting with a room full of advocates, like a community of advocates whose purpose aligned. It was just absolutely magical. And I thought, what an honor for me to be there to represent 3M and everything that we're doing for STEM advocacy. And personally for me, it was just a pinch me moment. And I just thought, my God, my journey of active advocacy just started 5 years ago. And you can actually do so much in that short amount of time that can actually get you a seat at the table. So it was really an event I just think was just surreal for me to be there. And I took about 52 selfies. So this is actually not the selfie, but, and my journey actually started 5 years ago because 3M, we really care about science. You heard our CTO, science is central to everything we do. It is the foundational strength behind our brand. It is what fuels the innovation. All that work that I do is all coming from that. We wanted to understand what the world thought about science, and we commissioned a survey to understand the public perception. And what we found was truly jaw-dropping. 4 out of 10 surveyed said if science didn't exist, their lives would be no different. Mm-hmm. Some laughing, some grimace. Yes, yes, yes. 32% of the people call themselves science skeptics. And in this population, 6 out of 10 said if science did not exist, their lives would not be any different. 14 countries, 1,000 respondents per country. Wow. What were they taking their survey on? Their laptops and mobile phones. Science is invisible, science is underappreciated, science is taken for granted. That is the problem. Now, this was some data that we could not keep close to our vest because we don't have the answers. We wanted to foster a global conversation on this topic. Everybody needed to know. And that is why I was asked to be the chief science advocate, because we wanted to advocate for science. And I had my reservations about this role, but I accepted it. And we decided to do a number of efforts and initiatives based on the data that we were gathering on the public perception. Now, everything changed, obviously, with the pandemic. Science was in the public discourse. Scientists were center stage in the evolving story. People also saw that science and scientists and professionals in STEM have a profound impact in shaping the future of the world. And they connected science not just with health, they connected science with sustainability, they connected science with the next generation of talent and science with our future, and that created expectations. And in fact, when we looked deeper into our data, we found that many said they were actively discouraged from pursuing science. And among those who were discouraged, these are the reasons they gave. This is 14 countries, 1,000 respondents per country. You can imagine that people have issues with access. You can imagine that some people are actually told don't do it because you're not smart enough. The third reason is because of their gender, race, or ethnicity. So this is the global data. This is the US data. Highest of any country. 1 out of 2 said, I was discouraged because of my gender, race, or ethnicity. So we obviously have our work cut out. And that is why this topic was put on the national agenda that day at the White House. Now, what did 3M do? 3M announced a new education-focused goal. And we said we would deliver 5 million skilled trades and STEM experiences to underrepresented individuals by 2025. And the team led by Jackie and others and Michael's team are doing a great job, and we're tracking very well for year 1. And obviously this takes partnerships to inspire, to improve, and to transform. And that's the plan with this. So we are very appreciative of all the partners we have in this, because it takes a community of advocates. What we also found is that the world agrees. When have you ever heard anybody say that lately? But the world agrees. 17 countries in all by now. And 90% of the people said, yes, we need more people in STEM. We need more people in STEM, but we also need more diversity in STEM. We also need to do more to encourage girls in STEM. 7 out of 10 agreed there'll be negative consequences if we don't get women in STEM. So what do? This is 2021. We are still, many of us were at home, and my colleagues were working hard to quadruple the number of N95 respirators. We were busy creating a docuseries. I say this is the extension of 3M's innovative capabilities. You may know us for Scotch tape and Post-it notes and N95, but you should also know us for some of this work that we have done. This docuseries in partnership with AAAS, we wanted to inform, influence, and inspire the next generation. We wanted to show it doesn't matter what your age, race, gender, or ethnicity is. It doesn't matter what path you take to get here. Our paths can be just as diverse as we all are. Science will be better off for that diversity. Science needs you to be you. And this docuseries was very well received. So on the heels of that, when we found out there is a huge perception issue with skilled trades, we created another one. And this focuses on the skilled trades. We wanted to really sift through all those misconceptions about this area, shift the narrative, and really lift the stigma around these roles. Skilled trades jobs are STEM jobs. And we spotlighted people to show that they can have great careers, they can all have different paths to get there, and they can contribute to community. And that is important, because in 2022, we asked those who took the survey and were in STEM, what were your motivations for pursuing STEM? And if you look at the demographic slicing of this data carefully, you see that women and Black and Hispanic men endorse social goals. There is no right or wrong. We need it all. That's exactly the point why we need diversity. We need those who are passionate about the field. We also need those who are passionate about making a difference by being in that field. That's exactly the point. We need that pipeline of talent that thinks differently. And here's data to show you that they do think differently. And to me, this brought up exactly what I thought. And the reason why I didn't want to be the chief science advocate, because I never thought of myself as the science and engineering type. I never saw a single woman engineer while I was growing up. And I didn't know that you could actually impact lives by being in a STEM role. It is only when I joined 3M in the communal context of improving lives that I realized that's what scientists can do. It was never the focus on that context in my entire STEM journey. And I only did it because my parents forced me to do it. My dad, it was a professor, and I grew up on the campus of an engineering college. So when I saw this, was very excited to actually reach out to people and work on this topic of how do you manage and to make sure that students are engaged during their education. And why is that important? Because you must have all heard about the leaky pipeline. We can encourage all these people to go into STEM, and then they get into their STEM education, and now they're not feeling engaged. And they don't sustain their interest in the field. So despite getting a degree, they go elsewhere. That is just sad to me. And that could have been me, because I was never excited about it. So actually 3M sponsored work with Indiana University, Professor Diekman, and we worked on understanding what could make sure that people who endorse social goals also see that context during their STEM education. And we found that a brief purpose elicitation can actually yield robust benefits. Students, once they do that and reflect on their purpose, they articulated motivation. They said they want to stay in these roles. And it also reduced stress, which was really interesting to observe. We saw that it not just helped them with the communal goals, but also agentic opportunities because they felt more in control. Really, really interesting results. Now, the stress reduction, of course, was different for different demographic, and the intersectionality of women of color was really something that needs to be addressed. So what are we doing now? 3M is sponsoring research to really get together and create a faculty toolkit for STEM educators who can make sure that they also talk about the context and purpose during that educational program so that people are reminded and it yields robust benefits on motivation and the ability to really sustain themselves in these STEM educations, which is a tough road. And we're very excited right now. We actually have our faculty focus groups and surveys going on, and our manuscript on this research has also been submitted. So if anybody is interested, please connect up on LinkedIn. The day it publishes, I'm telling you, I'll be just dancing everywhere and sharing it with everybody else, because this is what we do. We put science behind our science advocacy. That is why it's important. And another reason why this is important, we need a diverse talent pipeline. You heard what our CTO said. Increasing diversity is very well known that it increases your innovation. Increasing diversity is also important because we have highly progressive customers and a highly progressive customer base. But increasing diversity is also important because it bolsters the foundation of public trust in science. And we all need that. We saw what happened. Science could be rejected. Technology will not be trusted. Products will be obsoleted. Companies will be obliterated. It's no longer just the practice of science, but who are the practitioners? It's not just the policy, but the politics. And it's not just the people, it's also about the perceptions they hold. And that is why it's extremely important that we have a diverse pipeline. And that's why we're so committed to that. Now we look at the megatrends that are shaping our world, and we all know what they are. None of these problems will be solved without a very creative, diverse set of skills. We have a lot of challenges that we face. Will be 9 billion, that's the estimate, in just a few decades. We have to crack the code to a sustainable future. It will not happen if we all look the same, feel the same, think the same. It's not gonna happen if we are from the same community, the same college, the same country, for that matter. And that is why it is important. Our world requires innovation. Innovation needs science. Science demands diversity, and diversity warrants equity. And we need the public to trust science. And I say that it is important because our most recent results have come out. And of course, skepticism was rising before the pandemic, went down, but now it's in the rearview mirror. And skepticism is on the rise again. So we have to do what the public expects us to do, which is to have more people in STEM, have more diversity in STEM, have more equity in STEM. And that is why it is extremely important. And I know diversity fatigue is setting in. And this is the fatigue that people who are pushing for diversity feel, and the people who have to hear about it feel. It's like, why can't we just get on with this already? But diversity is not a focus on differences. Diversity can be a differentiation. Leadership is not a quality. It is an earned qualification. And so the leaders who are still pushing for that really deserve to be those leaders that they are going to be. And it's very important to understand that innovation is not optional. It's the only option with the world the way it is. So advocacy at the end of the day is not a passive act. It is an authentic act of passion. And that's what I learned in my journey from not the science type to chief science advocate. And I end with another selfie because the focus is always on what we can do about this. Thank you.